whoever's not, they're here, and we're live, and that's the thing that you need to know. So you folks who are watching later, behind the scenes, can see we're getting ready for some music. I'm going to play it right now. All right, well, I think we've established that the Jaggernauts have a really cool song that they named for some weird reason after this guy up here. It's another beautiful morning on Lake Wissota. And I'm jumping right into my guest because Todd Allbaugh's here. I'm sick as a dog, and so if anybody's going to help me bail out of this short segment reviewing the state of the state, it's going to be my friend Todd Allbaugh. Todd Allbaugh, how the heck are you?
Patrick, good morning. I'm well. I'm sorry that you're not physically well. It's these nasty neuroviruses or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing about people getting them pretty much since Christmas. I've been hearing people say that they've been quite sick and that it hangs on a little longer. And I have felt very lucky until the other day. So we'll skate through it. I mean, I've got the Olympics to watch on the couch.
I put on my Olympic Al Michaels sweater as well as my Birkenbeiner cup because the Birkie starts today up in Hayward.
Are you sure? Because there's almost the last of the snow is gone here in Chippewa Falls.
I heard they had enough to make it and bring it in. I've covered it the last couple of years. It's such a great event. But the Birkie, you got so many Wisconsinites in the Olympics. The women's hockey team, mostly Badgers, or at least large share, playing for a gold medal. And Jordan Stoltz going for his third gold medal from Kewaskum. So what more do you want in the winter?
Oh, no, it's been really nice. Although, I mean, I will say, and I put this on Facebook over the weekend at some point, between Lindsey Vonn crashing out and then Ilya Melanin crashing out and some of the others, I took a break and just watched curling. I just needed something kind and sedate and not watching everybody's hopes and dreams just crash and burn. When I woke up this morning, on my phone, the first two words I see from the New York Times are Michaela Schifrin. I'm like, oh no, please not another crash and burn. It says, wins the gold medal. All right, I can go look at that. Yes, hooray.
Have you, not to get too far off the subject, this is real, by the way. Have you been following Crotchgate in the ski jumping?
No, not in the ski
this
jumping.
This is a real thing. Even though we're online, I won't get too detailed. This is real.
Okay.
That there is a scandal going on that some of the ski jumpers are shooting up their junk with a needle, I mean medically or whatever, to enlarge it so it's rounder in diameter because they get a 3D body scan for their suit, and if their junk appears bigger, then you get more fabric on the suit, which makes you fly farther, whatever. That's real.
Come on.
I'm serious. Even NBC covered it.
Here's my take on that has been, and I've said this in Summer and Winter Olympics, we're now at the point where they're deciding these things by thousandth of a second.
Yes.
If we're at that point, really, I mean, you're all good, okay? You all get a medal. We're not going to kill somebody's hopes and dreams over 5/1000th of a second or something like that.
Right.
And if we got to do that with needles and delicate pieces of the body, we're probably there.
Yeah.
I did enjoy watching. We've always talked about this with the Olympics as well. Normies, normal people trying to do Olympic things, and so it's Jason Kelsey has tried the bobsled. Colin Jost has tried the bobsled.
Yes, I saw that.
Neither clip could air without substantial censoring because of all the swearing that goes on.
But I did learn this. Have you seen this? Not by you, but I think more towards Rhineland somewhere. They actually have like a luge track where people like you and I can go and pay a fee for like 3 hours, and it's not like the high 90 mile an hour, but you can go up to 30 miles an hour. I'm like, I might do that. You and Dr. Lyerly needs to be covered.
Dr. Lyerly, I don't think Humpty Dumpty is in a position to be doing anything like that anytime
But
soon.
if she's healthy, I can see her saying, "Sure, I'll do that."
Yes. Okay. That I can see. Okay, that's fine. Let me see if I can pull up this one video file that I took from Governor Evers' State of the State address last night, and we'll move into that here because you watched most of it. I saw very little of it. In fact, between being sick and watching the Olympics, at one point I thought I saw Tony Evers, going off a ski jump. turned out I was just hallucinating
He was
from the
jazzed
night
as
club.
hell to go off that ski jump.
That's right. What he did do was, at least in the first part of his remarks, he tried to get the legislature, because he wants to pass one more big bill, and he really wanted to emphasize, hey, there's a lot of stuff that, we have done together, and we is doing a lot of heavy lifting. But let's see, this is about, let me get the length on this. This is just over a minute of the Governor Tony Evers kind of leading into that. Let's see if we can get that up here. No, maybe I didn't.
Well, close enough. There's a bunch of stuff at the beginning.
Yes.
In full disclosure, I watched it on speed and a half. So I waited till it was over and then just went back.
That would be just fine. I think we should, again, do more of that.
Right.
I do not have a problem with that one bit. So, no, I see where I made my mistake now.
Right,
so
very good. Well,
I will.
While Pat's setting that up, I'll give you, because I'm Pat and I have hosted these before, anchored these before. I'm a big visual. I like to look at the visuals. I'll say this, that finally, after 7 years, the Republicans literally got up off their asses, not all of them, but the majority, and actually applauded for the First Lady and the First Family of Wisconsin last night when they were introduced by Tony Evers. And I'm like, well, finally we have some good news. Tony Evers had a suit that fit him. His glasses looked good. His tie was tied. I mean, I think as a former FLAC staffer, I think about this, the visuals, right?
Yes.
So he looked good. I thought, he's never going to be a Barack Obama or Bill Clinton orator, but I thought he gave the speech as well as Tony Evers could give it. So from those visual standpoints, I thought it looked good.
All right, let's try this again and see if we can give
Lawmakers are antsy to end the legislative session and pack up to get back on the campaign trail. By the way, if anybody's running that wants advice from someone who won 5 statewide elections, right here. Folks, I know many of you are up for the election, but here's the deal. After years of delivering historic bipartisan wins for our state, Wisconsinites have high expectations for the work we can do together over the next 10 months, and they should. Just look at what we've accomplished over the last 7 years. My vetoes are often the focus of news coverage and even political criticism. I know Republicans get upset when I use my veto pen to do good things for kids in schools, for example. The truth is, I've signed over 800 bills as governor, and more than 97% of those bills passed with bipartisan support. How about that?
How about that, indeed, Todd Allbaugh? And again, he said, we did this. We passed these bills with bipartisan support. Well, you don't have a choice when you got the Republicans running the legislature. And the Republicans, did not match that spirit. It was more like, oh, he signed all these things. These were our ideas. I'm like, stop it, both of you. Honestly, it's just so petulant.
Yeah. And maybe, I hope our viewers could hear, or I see him. I couldn't hear him in my headset. Maybe that was just me. But I read the subtitles. But that was one clip where he did say "we." That was another And look, I've harped on this for 7 years. I'm not going to go on about it. I've had the pleasure of meeting Tony Evers, being in meetings with him when my former boss Dale Schultz was in the state senate. He's a great guy. He's a smart guy, undefeated politically, right? 5 statewide races. No criticism. I voted for the guy, every election he's ever been in the state of Wisconsin, including the 18 Democratic primary for governor. But I feel his staff does not serve him well, particularly in times like these, in these speeches. That was one case that you just played there and showed, where he did say "we," but he started the speech by saying, "I'm going to save all of my accomplishments until my farewell address," and then proceeded to give us 25 minutes of his accomplishments. and it was so, even throughout the whole speech, other than what you just played, it was so much of I did this.
There was a lot of calling the Republicans out, like right there, no tiptoeing around. It's like, I will not sign, the latest Republican package, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, the speaker's right behind you. You guys could just right now make a deal on live TV,
you tell me, you actually were a state legislator. I lost 2 legislative races. But, sitting in that room as a state senator, Pat, don't you want your governor to be, talking about things like, hey, we did this. Together we accomplished this. Mm-hmm. Whether it was Tommy Thompson or Jim Doyle, they were both particularly good at that.
Yes.
And I just didn't get a lot of that in this speech. It was a lot of, like you say, partisan attacks on Republicans, or a lot of I did this, not even like his administration, like we did this in our administration. It was I, which rubs me the wrong way. But to cut to the chase on the education stuff, yeah, I mean, what was it? Over $700 million that Tony Evers proposed in his state budgets as governors that the Republican legislature didn't do. And really, it came down to this last state budget where there was, you correct me if the numbers, was it 300 million that went into special education funds ish for public education, which is great. But didn't we see this before at this time last year, Pat, when there was an election year in 2024? You had the budget address, and for those that don't know, the budgets are biannual, means it happens every other year. So there's no state budget this year. It happened last year. But Evers came out, gave this very strong state of the state and budget address, and I'm not going to capitulate. This is the red line. And then, and I was one of those that said on my old show, I thought there wasn't going to be a state budget. I thought they'd just hold the line, and Evers ends up making a deal with Republicans, brokers it, gets what he can, probably got the best deal he could. But I know there's a lot of concern, even amongst Democrats and those in the public education community, that said, you're supposed to be the education governor. This isn't going far enough.
Yeah. And that's why we find ourselves in this position where Evers wants one more big bill to pass because the projected surplus now has gone up a little bit. It's at least $2.5 billion. And he would like to see $450 million of it go toward increased general state school aids, because there were zero new dollars in state general aids in that last budget, in that deal you just alluded to. And so here's the chance to say, look, before we all go home and campaign, let's take $450 million out of it and put it in there. And to make you Republicans want to do this, let's also apply some to property tax relief and income tax rebates. The Republicans come back with, here's what we'll come back with. You give us the tax cuts and the tax rebates, and we don't give you any new money for schools. And the governor, in that case, rightly called him out on it last night. And then, of course, Voss afterwards stamped his feet and said the governor's a meanie. And it's like, okay, so nothing's changed. You guys have had the same relationship all the way through. You're going to push this till the very end, and ultimately you're going to have something to campaign on, which is probably nothing. You're going to point to the nothing and campaign on that, is my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I thought last night was a lot about campaigning, quite frankly, if I'm being honest about this. Things like this Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, which we've known, you and I in our old shows on the radio talked about this, that it was not included in the budget. That was part of the deal. It did not get included. We've known, the state's known there's been an issue here. Why wasn't Tony Evers at Governor Nelson State Park with Tia Nelson on the North Shores of Lake Mendota having a press conference in October calling for unity to come together to save this program instead of waiting 3 days before the legislature is going to be gone? I'll criticize my former party on this. They should be staying longer. But you and I are both old enough to know guys like Wally Kinnicky and Chuck Walla and Russ Decker who did the same damn thing. And maybe they didn't leave in February. They left in April or whatever, but they didn't stay there the entire election year.
Right.
Tony Evers knew the timeline. He wants to make political points on this, in my opinion, instead of actually getting something done.
Let's talk about the other wrinkle in this, and it doesn't get talked about much because people, it's a little too much in the weeds. But I had to chuckle last week at how Senate Republican leader Devin LeMahieu was, again, his fifis were hurt because Robin Voss and Tony Evers were talking. And I always love to point out that in the state capitol and in the U.S. Capitol as well, we think everything is D versus R. Nope. Sometimes it's Assembly Republicans versus Senate Republicans. Sometimes it's U.S. Senate Democrats versus House Democrats, and on and turf battles are everywhere. And that was just the latest example of it.
I've told this. I've told the quick version, but when Dale was my former boss, Dale Schultz was Senate Majority Leader, and John Gard was Speaker of the House, both Republicans, and or Speaker of the Assembly, and Jim Doyle was Governor. Gard called over one day to Dale's office. I mean, they could have just walked over, but he called over and he starts going off, on Dale. And he goes, if you think, Dale, that this is going to pass, and just goes off. And Dale just sat there and Gard hung up on him. And Dale looks up and he goes, well, I guess he's a no on that. So you're absolutely right.
Yes.
I mean, this is a tale as old as time, and I do think it's interesting that for my criticisms of Robin Voss, and there are a lot of them, he's survived. He's a hunkerer, and he has some ability to negotiate, and apparently with this governor and/or his staff. And I just don't think Lemieux is that savvy of a politician, and he kind of gets iced out. And also, Mary Flaskowski, the president of the Senate, they don't like the president of the Senate and the majority leader do not like each other, and that is a huge problem in the state Senate, as you know, because those two individuals essentially run the state Senate.
Oh, yeah. And where I saw it during my tenure was the aforementioned Governor Jim Doyle and Senate Democratic leader Russ Decker. And both of them wanted to lead the parade, and the other did not care to have the other one dictating the agenda at all. And that led to some real disagreements behind the scenes as far as what should pass and what should be changed or shouldn't be changed. So what you're seeing is, I mean, tale as old as time, but I always feel like we have to let people know how some of the soup is made, or the sausage, I guess, is the case.
In your case, you need soup, Pat, today.
I do. I need plenty of chicken soup. So anyway, so from this point onward now, unless barring any big surprise out of the legislature, we know what we're going to get heading into campaign season right now, and we know that legislatures are important, legislative races are important, but of course all the attention is on the governor's race and some of these congressional races. So I guess I can only put this in the most general way, Todd, is that while November is still a long way off, where would you put, this is your typical pundit question here, 0 to 100, where would you put the potential of a Democratic trifecta next year with the governor's race, a Democratic Assembly, and a Democratic Senate, or we can just do over under 50% at this point?
I would say not as high as most people think. I think that the chances are better than 50% that whoever wins the Democratic nomination has a good chance against Tom Tiffany, because Tiffany has allied himself so much with Donald Trump. I mean, they're one and the same essentially, and many of Trump's policies, whether it's overboard, as that's the understatement of the year, tactics by ICE, or whether it's tariff impact on Wisconsin, which the governor did bring up last night, which I appreciated. I thought that was a good hit by the governor. Those things are just not popular with most Wisconsinites, and so Tiffany being so tight, I think he is vulnerable on that, depending upon who comes through the governorship. I think the state Senate is certainly up for grabs. You got Steve Nass is probably a safe seat down in southern Wisconsin, but he announced that he's not going to run again. Other Republicans. So I mean, there's a real chance, I think, for Democrats to pick up the state Senate. I think the difficulty is going to be the state assembly. Keep me honest, but the last reporting I saw in terms of finances, that the Republican RAC, the political arm of the assembly, has outraised the Democratic arm pretty significantly. I think it's going to be the money factor on the assembly side. And also, you know this as well, Pat, Wisconsinites really like split government. They don't like having one party in complete control. And I think that the tactic for a lot of Republican Assembly folks is going to be like, look, that we could lose the governorship here, probably going to lose the Senate, because Assembly and the Senate always like to beat each other up. Well, I'm your last line of defense here. We got to keep one of these houses in Republican control. So if it's a huge, the blue wave, I think is a real thing, possibility. But I'm not as optimistic as a lot of people are. This is going to be a trifecta. How about you?
I just think about 2022 and the block of voters that were Tony Evers, Ron Johnson voters.
Yeah.
And that's why Mandela Barnes lost in a very close election, is the number of people that really want their split government by party or by whatever other factors they might have made that decision on. And so, yeah, there's a long way to go before we get there, but at least the legislative session will be done soon, and they can take what they did do and what they didn't get done and roll with that.
Can we talk really quickly about this property tax issue in the campaign?
Yeah.
Because I think this is being under-talked. I've heard you mention it on this show, but I'm not hearing this a lot of other places. That's another issue that I think Democrats are just being, not all of them, but I mean, I know Kelda Royce has been out there talking about this, but I have not heard a lot of gubernatorial candidates for Democrats talking about this. This property tax increase that Wisconsin tax, it's real. They see it on their property tax bill. They're paying it. They understand that. Now, people like Pat and I, and probably people listening or viewing this, get it. That it was the underfunding for years by Republicans, not even keeping up with Republican Governor Tommy Thompson's 2/3, not even close to it, that has caused this problem for our local school districts in order to stay alive to raise our property taxes. But the way the Republicans are peddling this, it's much easier just to go out there and say, well, Evers did this goofy 400-year veto. Yep. This is all the Democrats. If you want your property taxes to go down, vote for me. That's easier for voters to understand, and I don't think the Democrats are taking this seriously enough.
I completely agree, and that's why I grabbed on that early and often, is you better be knocking down that 400-year veto as nonsense and explaining why it is. Because, again, you can be right, Democrats, on this issue, but if you lose in November because, people remember 400-year veto, I mean, that 400-year veto did a lot of good for helping school districts financially for a couple of years, but could turn out to be the worst possible move ever just from, the political marketing standpoint. So Dems better get on the message and be proactive on that thing.
Agreed.
Let's do a quick little history lesson before I wrap things up today, shall we? I've got 2 notes here on this day, this week in 1957. Tab Hunter. You remember Tab Hunter, don't you? No, I don't.
Sure,
I don't. I remember the name because you'd watch like Flintstones cartoons and things. They talk about Tab Hunter. Anyway, he had the #1 song this week in 1957 with "Young Love," and he was there for 6 weeks. He was a major heartthrob of the 1950s, but then revealed in his 2005 memoir the frustrations of being a gay man forced to go through the charade of dating stars like Debbie Reynolds and Natalie Wood because Hollywood studios demanded it.
Don't I know it? That's fantastic.
Jim in Appleton's there, and he says, "So happy to see Todd the Great. I miss your insight on education and your take on politics." But he says, "But mostly, I miss your laugh."
Well, thank you, Jim. We appreciate it.
Chris Hambuck Boyle agreed with that right away. And look, Tony's here too. Tony says, "Do you want to be right or do you want to win?" All right, the other history lesson note I have here from 2011 on this day was that Lady Gaga scored the 1,000th #1 hit on the Billboard Top 100 with Born This Way, which, of course, always sends me down the rabbit hole because I love the Billboard charts. I'm a radio rat, going way back. My friend and I at the time used to write down in a notebook all the top 40 songs Casey Kasem was playing, on that particular weekend.
Yes.
Did you know that Billboard charts date back to 1913 when they had a chart of the 10 best-selling popular songs of sheet music?
Wow, I did not know that.
Then they created charts of the top songs being performed in theaters, and then movies, and then records, which started in 1936. They have mixed the charts around, several different times, but the current Hot 100 that we know back in the late 50s started, the first #1 was Ricky Nelson's Poor Little Fool. And then Lady Gaga, like I said, on this day in 2011, had chart-topping single #1,000. So here's the question, where are we now? How many #1 songs have been on the Hot 100 chart?
Since 1913?
Since the late 1950s with Ricky Nelson when they redid the chart. So if Lady
Gaga
Gaga had 1,000 back in 2011, how many more #1 songs have we had in the past 15 years?
Boy, Phil, you would probably know this at WRCO. I'm going to say 15,000.
1,500 maybe, you mean? Because we're going from 1,000.
Yes.
No, we've gone from 1,000, not a bad guess, but we're at 1,188. The current #1 song is by, of course, Donald Trump's favorite, Bad Bunny. DTMF is chart topper 1,188. So thank you for indulging me with a little bit of that. So it's fun.
That's fantastic.
What else? Hey, we got the question of the week as well.
Give it to me. I haven't seen it yet.
Gives me the chance to pitch the newsletter. Sign up, upnorthnewswi.com. Tom Tiffany told a right-wing cable channel he agreed with Pam Bondi and blamed Democrats for focusing too much on the Epstein files as a way to distract from Trump's success on the economy. Anyway, be that as it
Okay.
may, how do you feel about Tom Tiffany saying that the Epstein cases are a distraction? And we had people vote by emoji: angry face, clown face, sad face, embarrassed face, grimace face, and thumbs up. Tom's right. And by the way, we did get 2 of those. But
Really?
this has actually been, to this point, and I haven't seen from this morning, but just in the first 24 hours, it blew away the record of responses to our question of the week. Hundreds and hundreds of responses, and it's not going to shock you that the angry face or the clown face is the top answer because, and again, I don't think Wisconsin media, if you're a typical media consumer in Wisconsin, you have no idea that Tom Tiffany just said that. And,
No, I didn't.
you know, it'll play in commercials, don't get me wrong. It'll play in commercials all fall, but, I mean, it's such insensitive doesn't begin to scratch the surface.
No, it's our former colleague and friend Kristen Bry was down in WTMJ filling for Steve Scafidi here.
Yeah, I watched you guys. I'm, so much talent.
No, it's
You
just
guys
fun.
are just so good looking, both of you.
No, she is. She is both lovely and talented. But she just did just off the top of her head. It wasn't written down. Because she had been away for a few days, and it was her first time speaking her views on the whole Epstein file thing since the latest round came out. And I found it interesting from both a woman's perspective and a mom of a daughter's perspective.
The
And-
angst.
Yeah, and the anger and just the
frustration.
Yes. And she, I can't replicate it. I'm not going to try to. But
No, but
essentially-
I would urge everybody to go look at it. It is must viewing to watch Kristen process this in real time. The frustration that we live in a time where something like this, pedophilia, child sex ring, existed, and people are closing ranks around the rich and the powerful for this.
and that most of these people, not all of them, are never going to be brought to justice. And as Kristen said, the best we could do is just shame them. That's it.
Yes.
Just shame them. And since then, to see the connections with essentially every major person in social media, Zuckerberg at Meta, Bill Gates at Microsoft, Tim Cook at Apple, all mentioned either having visited or having been incestuously involved with money, and that the rich, the powerful, and the media are all part, and foreign governments like the Saudis are all part of this sick ring of pedophilia. And these are the people that are controlling not just our government, but how we talk to each other and what we see.
And whether we can talk about it on their
Yes.
platforms.
Yes, as we've seen now with Stephen Colbert.
Yes.
But it's beyond disturbing. And to get back to your point, I do think that elected officials, Republicans who are defending this, remember Scott Walker is in the Epstein files, by the way, trying to raise money from Jeffrey Epstein at a quote-unquote private dinner in New York while he was the sitting governor of this state. And for Tom Tiffany to say that's a distraction, again, I think this is one of the many reasons that I think Democrats will have the advantage in the gubernatorial general election come November.
So we give the last word to Tony, who says, "Did you see the meme? Tom Tiffany wasn't in the Epstein files because he was too busy screwing Wisconsin."
Oh, da, 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 da.
There you go.
Hey, can we talk about the SAVE Act real quick, or we got to go?
Yes. No. Really? Where's the commercial break? I don't know. That's, Todd, the floor is yours.
No, I want to, because I do know people watch this and listen to it, whether it's live or whether they replay it. And you've talked a little bit about this, and I appreciate that. You're one of the few people that are in this state, in the media. And the SAVE Act, which, there was another version by Congressman Stile of Wisconsin. This passed the U.S. House last week. Every Republican in this state voted, congressperson voted for it. Now it goes to this U.S. Senate where it needs 60 votes. Republicans have 53, so they have to get through the filibuster, which takes 60 votes. Not going to happen, but they could use the nuclear option and get rid of the filibuster. If Trump signs it, it becomes law immediately, which could affect spring elections here in Wisconsin, certainly in the fall. Read up on this. Listen to Pat. because, amongst other things, it disenfranchises over 30 million women who have gotten married and taken their husband's name, and their birth certificate does not count. It would require, and Republicans like Style are saying, well, I just bought a beer in Wisconsin and showed my ID, and I had, guess what? I got to get a real ID because I want to go to Florida for winter. I'm all set, right? No. As it turns out, the real ID of Wisconsin will not work under the proposed SAVE Act right now in Congress. Only 5 states, including Minnesota, but not Wisconsin, are applicable. Read up on this. Keep listening to Pat. This is our most sacred right as Americans, in my opinion, and it is at risk. We have arrived at show me your papers.
Yeah, we really have, and even if you don't, we can still shoot you dead in the street. It's just not. Right. It's crazy, and I'm really glad that you brought that up because it does. People need to know who's really looking to truly suppress democracy, suppress elections. Things I didn't think we'd ever be talking about in this country, but away we go.
But there were a couple of guys on the radio and Jane Matnair and others. Yeah, we're talking about this.
Those guys.
You people are crazy. It'll never happen.
Yep. Oh well. But here we are anyway.
Here we are.
All right. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat. Feel better, my friend. Have some chicken soup and call your doctor. Well, here's the nice thing about Pat. He has an in-house doctor.
I have an in-house gynecologist, so there's not a lot she can do for me. But a little sympathy now and then. Yeah. Although again, I just hear stop being a big man, baby, and have your chicken soup and go watch the Olympics. Right. Thank you, Mr. Allbaugh. I will talk to you again real soon. And thanks to all of you for being here as well for another beautiful morning. Enjoy the day. I'll be taking the rest of the week off and settling down. We'll see you next week.